And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Penny from WRCJ 90.9, your home for classical days and jazzy nights. You are about to see and hear a truly historic event. It's a first for the festival, and as it turns out, it's really the first time, as far as we know, that this has ever been presented in its full theatrical form. I'm talking about The Real Ambassador, which was Dave and Iola Brubeck's jazz opera or jazz musical. They envisioned it going to Broadway, and it was written expressly for Louis Armstrong. It's particularly appropriate that we're presenting this during the week that we've been celebrating the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, because this is Dave and Iola's commentary. Yeah, let's celebrate that because it's worth celebrating. This is their commentary on what was going on in the years before that event, during the late 50s and the early 60s, when the Cold Warriors in the State Department were sending jazz musicians around the world as cultural ambassadors of goodwill in the American way of life, while here at home, an almost hot war was being fought over the implications of Brown versus the Board of Education. And of course, the jazz musicians, the first one was Dizzy Gillespie, but the king, the real ambassador, was Louis Armstrong. There's a bit of hypocrisy in that. And that's what this program addressed. You should have, speaking of programs, there is a program for this show floating around. You should have one. It'll give you some background on the event and also tell you the entire cast. And I want to introduce to you the guy who is the producer and the director and has worked his hiney off to bring this to the stage today. Please, a warm welcome for Bill Meyer.
50 years ago, the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King gave a speech called I Have a Dream. And it was the first time he did it was here in Detroit. And he did it right there in that building in Cobo Hall. We're in the shadow of Cobo Hall. Then he gave the speech in D.C. at the Washington March. 52 years ago, Dave and Iola Brubeck wrote a jazz musical that shared many of the same dreams. A world where people would be treated with justice and equality. Jazz musicians and jazz lovers have always been ahead of the game, ahead of the rest, willing to accept people for the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. Dave and Iola had a dream also. They knew that the arts could be used for social change. They had hoped to perform this on Broadway, as John said, but it didn't happen. Instead, it was performed only once in a short version. This is 50 years later now, and we're going to do it again. And we want to, thank you. We want to dedicate this performance to a woman who also had a dream 50 years ago, Iola Brubeck. These are her words in this show, and Dave's music, of course. You know, we all still have a lot of work to do to make these dreams come true. The jazz community can lead the way. And now let's go back to 1961. Here's our narrator, the Honorable Judge Claudia Morcom, who was at that Cobo Hall 50 years ago to hear Martin Luther King.
The Real Ambassadors is not a musical drama in the usual sense. The drama lies in the sudden coming to life of words and notes written on pieces of paper, propped on music stands before our players. Sets and costumes are far more fantastic than any of us could ever see on stage because they exist only in our imaginations. We must paint a view of the world from an airplane window, build an African village with a church and a palace and people in the streets. I have said our presentation is not a drama, nor is it a play, except in the sense that to play is to pretend. Nor is our offering really a concert, only in the very special sense of concert. Many voices raised as one. Ladies and gentlemen, our cast of characters.
Everybody's coming. Everybody's coming. Everybody's coming. Louis Armstrong will appear. lost. Nothing throws us for a loss. We play the trumpet call. Come on, join us now. Everybody's coming.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's coming.
Yeah.
Louis is a coming, coming is a coming, Billy is a coming, Emily is a coming, Anne's a coming, and Ross is a coming, and Eddie's a coming, and G-Rats a coming. Everybody's coming.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's coming. Now's the time to sing and shout. Something bells can ring about. Everybody's turning. Swingers all about. Every is a coming.
Oh yeah.
Every is a coming.
Yeah.
Everybody's coming. Everybody's coming. Everybody's coming. Everybody's coming. Everybody's coming. Everybody's coming. Let's go.
Our story concerns a musician, musician, not unlike the musicians you've seen on this stage in the last couple of days. The personal history of our hero reads like the story of jazz, up from the shores of Lake Pontchartrain to Chicago and beyond, from New York to San Francisco, London to Tokyo, and points in between. The music which poured forth from his horn became his identity, his passport to the world, the key to locked doors, and for years he had lifted up his horn, as our hero would say, and just played to folks on an even soul-to-soul basis, as far away as the deserts of the Middle East.
Man, there's really something happening here tonight. Round my campfire, harem girls are dancing while the nomads dancing in the stories. Flames leap high and pulses start to quicken as they think of all the ancient glories. Cool breezes come with the moon. Sunrise will beckon us soon. We go dashing, flashing, skirmishing across the desert till night shadows overtake us. Like the hot winds, we will roam across the desert. We know Allah won't forsake us. This night is so free that no one can change me. A desert nomad, that's what I want to be. Skirmishing across the desert till night shadows overtake us. Like the hot winds, we will roam across the desert. We know Allah won't forsake us. This night is so free that no one can change me. A desert nomad, that's what I want to be. A desert nomad, that's the life for me.
Through his horn, he had spoken to millions of the world's people. Through it, it had opened doors to presidents and kings He had no political message, no slogan, no plan to sell or save the world. Yet he and other traveling musicians like him had inadvertently served a national purpose, which officials recognized and eventually sanctioned with a program called Cultural Exchange.
From reports on Dizzy Gillespie, it was clear to the local press. Well, the riots in far-off Greece stored a place to compare in peace. That's what we call cultural exchange. 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 When this blew, the riots were routed. People danced and they cheered and shouted. Headlines battered, the hour is his. They dropped their stones and they rocked the dance. That's what we call cultural exchange. That's what we call cultural exchange. That's what we call cultural exchange. That's what we call cultural exchange.
Yeah, I can remember when Diz was back in 57. He sent jazz all over the world. The State Department has discovered jazz. It reaches folks like nothing ever has. Like when you feel that jazzy rhythm, there's really something with them. That's what we call cultural exchange. No commodity is quite so strange as this thing called cultural exchange. And when our prestige needs a tonic, export the Philharmonic. That's what we call cultural exchange. That's what we call cultural exchange. We took Oklahoma in Japan, in Iran, and when they called our neighbors vermin, we sent out Woody Hyman. That's what we call cultural exchange. Gershwin gave the Muscovites a thrill. Bernstein was the darling of Brazil.
Hey, isn't he here?
And when that church to the bottom, we sent out Martha Graham. That's what we call cultural exchange. That's what we call cultural exchange. Yeah, and when the world gets wacky, we'll get John to send out Jackie.
You mean Jackie Robinson?
No, man, I mean the First Lady. That's what we call cultural exchange. Oh, that's what we call cultural exchange. Oh, yeah.
When the State Department officials came to our hero with a plan to tour the world in the name of democracy, freedom, and the red, white, and blue, he who had experienced such great success as an unofficial ambassador felt that such a tour could jeopardize his spotless, non-committal career. For in addition to his undeniable musical gifts, he possessed a gift equally as rare, the ability to keep opinions to himself and observe in silence. He had taken great pains to create a dazzle-tooth, shimmering public image, which could possibly become tarnished if he were to speak what was on his mind. He had once been known to say in a moment of pique,
Lady, if you could read my mind, it would bust your head wide open.
discretion had served well. After all, through the years, he had gained the admiration of not only the public, but the critics.
The critics? Who needs them? Who, I wonder, reads them besides us? In the news. There's nothing like a good review to start a day out right. It's just a thing to make us swing and jam into the night. Although reviews can't faze us, it really does amaze us when we don't face rejection in the music section. There's nothing like a good review to make us wanna blow. So affirmations, narration, change that con to prose. For those critics to praise us, it really does amaze us with their views in the news. Well, there's nothing like those good reviews to keep as souvenirs. The other kind we quickly lose and drown 'em out with tears. Although we do regret 'em, we just try to forget 'em and then defy prediction, come through with our conviction. There's nothing like a good review to make our lives complete. Though we unfortunately must take the bitter with the sweet. Although we do adore them, if bad we just ignore them and their views.
We hope they like us.
In the news.
And if they like us,
Good reviews. In the news.
yeah.
Get there, aren't you?
And there were other serious questions on our hero's mind.
Now listen
Like-
here. What we need here is a goodwill tour of Mississippi.
Man, forget Mississippi and Moscow. What we need to do is play New Orleans.
Despite such impertinences, our musician was persuaded that an official tour was not only an obligation, but an honor. When the band gathered at New York International Airport the morning of their departure, members of the President's Committee of the People to People Program for Cultural Exchange appeared to give the musicians a last-minute briefing.
Passports,
Shots,
identifications,
Verification.
visas,
pamphlets,
verifications. When you travel in a far-off land, remember you're more than just a band. You represent the USA, so watch what you think and you do and say.
Remember who you are and what you represent. Always be a credit to your government. No matter what what you say or what you do. The eyes of the world are watching you. Remember who you are and what you represent. Represent, represent.
Remember who you are and what you represent. Never get a problem, always circumvent. Stay away from issues, be discreet. When controvert the inches, you retreat. Just remember who you are and what you represent. You represent, represent, represent. Remember who you are and what you represent. Jelly Roll and Basie helps us to invent a weapon that no other nation has, especially the Russians can't claim jazz. Remember who you are and what you represent. Represent, represent. Represent, 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 represent.
Well, the members of the band knew each other well. Thousands of travel-weary miles had revealed each to the other his weaknesses and his strengths, and through a process of mutual tolerance, the band had evolved a delicate balance of power, a non-competitive friendliness, which the military would have termed esprit de corps. However, the intrusion of a new personality was quite capable of upsetting this carefully fashioned balance, activating the store of knowledge each possessed of the other, intensifying in each man's eyes his own strengths and others' weaknesses, and in short, completely demoralizing a heretofore smoothly functioning organization. She did just that. Her years were few, but her experience was varied. From the moment the new vocalist joined the band, her predatory eyes had not wavered from her principal target, our hero. When he responded in the time-honored tradition of band leaders, he received a strange ultimatum.
I never smoke, nor drink, nor swear. My habits are sublime, and at the risk of seeming square, resist temptation all the time. One weakness I possess, in all meekness I confess. My one bad habit is falling in love, then falling right out again. My resolutions, forget the past, don't fall too fast, and make it last. My dreams that mattered have all been shattered, they're long since scattered, gone. My grand illusions were just illusions. My revolution is on to break that habit of falling in love with someone who doesn't care. I'm out to conquer, so love, beware. No more despair in this love affair. It's now or never, my last endeavor to love forevermore. So please treat me gently, 'cause evidently your bad habit, like my bad habit, is falling in love. Just one little shove, and I'll start falling again. Yeah, I'll start falling again. Oops. Let's start falling again.
Love to me is like a summer song. Silent cause, it's just too much to say. Still and warm and peaceful. Even clouds that may drift by can't disturb my summer sky. I'll take summer, that's my time of year. Winter shadows seem to disappear. Gayest, warmest season, that's the reason I can say that I love a summer day. I hear laughter from the swimming hole, kids out fishing with the willow pole. Boats are drifting round the bend. Why must summer ever end? Oh, love to me is like a summer day. If it ends, the memories will stay. Still and warm and peaceful. Now the days are getting long. I can sing my summer song.
Pops, for that's what his friends called him, and his singer came to an understanding. The State Department tour was a triumph. Here's where our story should end, but our hero refused to let it end here. He was beginning to feel the power that was in his horn. It was something linked with the power that was within people. Vague dreams began to stir in our hero's mind as day after day he stared out the window at the landscape of the moving world and wondered what it was he could do.
Man, if they would just let me run things my way, this world would be a swinging place.
And what would you do?
Well, the first thing I'd do was start a basement session.
Come on, Bobby. you mean a summit conference.
No, I don't mean no UN kind of session. I mean a jam session.
If you're king for only a day, how'd you go about having your way?
Well, if your only wish was my command, I'd go and form a swinging band with all the leaders from every land.
Oh, can't you hear that messed up beat? I'll tell you now, you're gonna meet defeat.
Well, they was far right in the swinging groove, and all the isms gonna move. Relationships are bound to improve.
Melody on one melody, when each man calls his own tune, they'll be used to playing the song they played all alone. You're asking way much too soon.
Not than this deal. Now this song without a tear. That is the only session of its kind where harmony you're sure to find. It's going to be a holiday if I am due for a day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If I am king for a day.
So you got a mind to be a king.
I think I'd be all right as a king. After all, Buddy Bolden was king.
King Oliver.
Count Basie.
And Duke Ellington.
Earl Father Hines.
Oh, man, come on. That cat won't know Earl. That was his first name.
No.
Yeah.
Man, he had me fooled all these
See,
years.
although my king is wise, can't he realize that Rome wasn't built in a day? He be apt to scat and a perfect right in a hypocritical way.
Not if they are playing jazz. There'll be no such razzmatazz. Cause it's the lesson where they jam the blues and Khrushchev found in both his shoes. Couldn't call the final say if I came for a day.
It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. If I'm king for a day.
You ain't no be king. It ain't gonna happen.
The musicians peered anxiously through windows of the small plane. A ribbon of road stretched from the river through the jungle to a high clearing. This was Talgala, the newest of the new African nations, a tiny tribal monarchy. Talgala would soon have a delegation in the United Nations, and the United States had recognized its importance by appointing an ambassador due to arrive momentarily. But it was not for these political reasons that our trumpet-playing hero had taken it upon himself to bring his band to Talgala. All over Africa, he had heard rumors of the Festival of Talgala, a traditional expression of the hopes of Africa. After 5 days of topsy-turvy celebration, the people of Talgala honored their most loved citizen by crowning him king for 24 hours. The rulers and the ruled traded places for one day, a challenging concept to our hero. The airplane had scarcely touched the ground when it was surrounded by thousands of laughing, shouting Talgalans. Our hero emerged from the plane, trumpet in hand, and as a sign of greeting, raised the instrument to his lips, gave forth with a blast like the triumphal sound of the ancient ram's horn. The festival crowd responded with a shout and the rhythmic clapping of hands. And a tall man with gold-rimmed spectacles, dressed in Western garb, pushed his way to the landing stairs and extended his arm in greeting. The smiling band leader brushed palm against palm, laughed and waved his white handkerchief to the crowd, and the awestruck man said in clipped mission school English,
We did not expect you to arrive so soon. You are the American ambassador, aren't you?
That's what they call me. That's what it's at.
News swept through the crowd like a ritualistic trance. The people of Talgala could not believe their good fortune that out of all the Americans, such a wondrous man should be chosen as their ambassador. They cheered him down the road into the town of Talgala.
What are you waiting for? Go, Satchmo, come on, go some more. Come on, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Can you hear Satchmo, go, Satchmo, we all want some more. Go, Satchmo, walls come tumbling down.
Hear 'em talking to
Go,
you.
Satchmo,
Hear 'em talking. Hear 'em talking. Hear 'em talking to you.
Satchmo,
Hear 'em talking.
take us by the hand. Lead us to
Hear 'em
that
promise.
to that promise, to that promised
Absorbed with his duties as ambassador to Talgala, Pops momentarily forgot obligations of a different nature.
In the lurch, caught standing in the shadow of a church, just like a lovebird pining on her perch. Where's my mate? Must I always wait? And so I'll just reverse that old cliche this gal intends to make. The piper's paid, so I'll be on my way. But it's touche if he's gonna play. I think I've waited long enough for him to come. Some guy somewhere will want someone to love as I love him. Tired of sitting on a limb. Though I'm burned, I guess I'll chalk it up to lesson learned and wonder when my heart will be returned, 'cause I might need it someday. Play that. I think I've waited long enough for him to come. Some guy somewhere will want someone to love as I love him. Tired of sitting on a limb. Though I'm burned, I'll chalk it up to one more lesson learned and wonder why my heart can't be returned. 'Cause I might need it someday. I might need it someday. I might need it someday. I might need it someday.
Uh-oh, Pops. Here comes trouble.
We're the real ambassador. It is evident we represent American society. Known for its honest independence and sobriety. We are clamorous for control and absolute sobriety. We ain't peace to the core. We're the real ambassador. Though we may appear as bores, we are diplomats in our proper hands. I'm trying to lose the ritual with all the ritual, but diplomatic core. criticized by NBC and CBS. Criticized by with the fans who was God they can't resist. To the government's reaching on your road, while they don't resist. That's what's playing it for. We're the real ambassador, yeah, the real ambassador. Who's the real ambassador? He's a representative of American society. Know the first of our variety. We have heard protocol and absolute right. We Yankees to the core. We're the real ambassador, though we may appear as more. It is a rat in a back for us. I'm a with all the ritual, we with all the ritual. We am at core. Who's the real ambassador? Yeah, the real ambassador. I'm the real ambassador. It is evident I wasn't sent by government to take your place. All I do is play the blues and meet the people face to face. I'll explain and make it plain. I represent the human race. I don't pretend no more. Who's the real ambassador? Certain facts we can't ignore. In my humble way, I'm the USA. Though I represent the government don't represent some policies I'm for. Though I've learned to be concerned about the constitutionality, in our nation segregation isn't a legality. Soon our only differences will be in personality. That's what I stand for. I'm the real ambassador, yeah, the real ambassador. It is humble way. It's the USA. Only represent the government don't represent the men that sees us all. Every institutionality, soon our information will be a reality. Soon our only sense will be in personality. That's what I stand for. Who's the real ambassador? Yeah, the real ambassador. All of my life, I've been lonely. I go way back in my past. I tell you all about lonesome. How the winters just last and last. I know all about autumn. Watching the leaves slowly turn. Sad as the tag end of summer, when dreams like leaves will burn. I stood alone in springtime, high upon the hill. Cried in the rain in springtime, 'cause no one was there to share the thrill. There's a certain glory in summer, quiet, contagious joy. There's a silent story in summer, which calls to mind a young boy who fell in love in summer and grew up far too fast. But still, he returns each summer to visit the past.
To Pops, life was a series of exciting crises and adventures strung together with uncalculated whim. He lived with the knowledge that bad days would pass, as would the good, and it was his obligation to live each hour as it came. His brief days as official ambassador had given Pops his first taste of responsibility. And when the people of Traralgalla had remained loyal to him even after the official ambassador arrived, he felt toward them a gratitude and a kinship. He suddenly found himself thinking in terms of the future. Not his future particularly, but everybody's future. Suddenly, everything Pops thought of or did began to matter. The girl, she had been just another girl in a long series of girls. Suddenly, she mattered very much.
Must I spend a lifetime just in waiting while others have fun? I am unequivocally stating that, brother, you're done.
Stop and think it over for a minute.
I've had time to think for several days.
Let me plead my case, and I will win it.
Enough of your ways.
It can happen just once in a lifetime, that a touch can bring visions of bliss. So don't wait for perfection, stop for reflection, yield for a tender kiss. Dry your tears and just think of this moment, one moment worth years. Only once in a lifetime of waiting does the world seem to offer you more. So please don't resist, you just can't resist. You'll discover what living is for. Just one moment in a lifetime. It's a moment too rare to ignore. It's you I need. Follow my lead. You'll find what life is in store. Dry your tears and just think of this moment, one moment worth years.
Only once in a lifetime of waiting.
Oh yeah.
Does the world seem to promise you more?
Oh yeah. Than you thought could exist. So please don't resist. You'll discover what living is for. Just think of the moment in a lifetime. You'll discover this moment to ignore. Yes, it's you that I need. So follow my lead. You'll discover what living is for. Dry your eyes and just think of this moment.
And baby, it's worth waiting for.
Oh yeah. You swing, baby, you swing for me. And every time you swing, you're in my key.
Although you talk those hip cliches, I really dig your crazy ways.
I dig, baby, I dig you so. If you ever holler, don't ever say go.
That's all I need to get my kicks.
You shall have a lyric line, plus your style is so divine.
Your phrase does amaze me more than William Shakespeare's plays.
You wail, baby, you wail the storm. Venus de Milo should have had your form.
Oh, you're alive beyond compare, and after you, all men seem square.
When you send me, I'll stay gone. People ask me what I'm on.
To quote a phrase from old Satchmo, if you gotta ask, you'll never know.
Oh, love, you swing, baby, you swing for me. I vote your soulmate of the century.
Alone I sing all melody.
But it takes two for harmony.
Singing,
Swinging, my life's complete.
as long as you're in rhythm with the cosmic beat. Living, loving, and moving ways that makes this crazy mixed up world of swinging place.
When vesper bells tolled at the mission, Pops, perhaps unconsciously, turned as did half the village to follow the beckoning sound. The streets of Talgalla were unusually quiet. Festivities had halted at sundown. Tomorrow, the people's king would be revealed. There would be time enough then for celebration. Now was the time for solemnity and prayer. As Pops watched the silent figures file into the mission, he felt the urge to follow, hesitated when he saw the doors close, then turned to look at the empty square. Lights from the palace, the church, and the moon splashed across the palace. All else was shadows. The service began. Pop sat on the steps outside the church and pondered its message and the puzzle of man.
They say I look like God. Can God be black, my God? If all are made in the image of thee, could thou perchance a zebra be? Could it be? No, not he. if we're black or white. He'd mix one color, one just right. Black or white. One just right. Oh Lord, please hear my plea. Oh, give me eyes to see that all creation was meant to be an act of God to set man free. He raised us from the earth. He raised us from above and gave to us the great choice to be alone on earth or one with thee. One with thee. When will that great day come? When everyone is one. And where will be the flame of free? When everyone can say he's free. Really free. Really free. Really free.
I didn't know till you told me that falling in love could be lonely, that waiting for your one and only makes a day an eternity. So I thought to be free was the answer, an avid, detached romancer, changing partners just like a dancer at the Art Mall in Gay Paris. It's time that I reconsider. Life is losing all its glitter. The sweetest things somehow seem bitter. You're a stayer, I'm a quitter. I believe all those things that you told me, since I've just found the man that can hold me. On all of these points you have sold me. It's goodbye to my
time that I reconsider. Life is losing all its glitter. The sweetest thing somehow seemed bitter. Life is losing all its glitter.
I believe all the things that you told me, since I just found the one that can hold me. On all of these points you have sold me, it's goodbye to my life so free. Love, say hello to me.
Since love has its way, why do we linger? That old marriage vow now seems worthwhile. I was looking for something new, something else to do. Life was such a bore. Then I found when you came around, then I heard a sound straight from heaven's door. Since love has its way, why do we linger? That old marriage vow now seems worthwhile. You smile, suddenly the spring, there's a wedding ring on my finger. And love has its way. Since love's here to stay, why do we linger? That old marriage vow now seems worthwhile. You smile, suddenly it's spring, there's a wedding ring on my finger. And love had its love had its love had its way.
In a remote spot in Africa, a flickering dream of human dignity had been kept alive. No one yet had succeeded in wresting from the citizens of Talgala the remnant of democracy, the freedom to run through the streets shouting their simple, if untenable, dreams. Each year, their ritualistic drama was enacted with fervor and hope that somehow, someday, it could be translated into action. With the arrival of the trumpet-playing, swinging ambassador from the United States, the people of Talgala felt that day was about to dawn. Talgala would become a monument to freedom. On the morning of July 10th, 1961, a small child, clad in white with a garland of flowers upon her, placed a crown upon our hero. The real ambassador was the symbol of the universal dream.
Swing bells, ring bells, the great day now begins. Bring out the news, the world can
trumpet blowing clear, telling me the day is near, the day that I've been waiting for. Bring peace to earth forevermore. And the people looking down at me, saying, blow your horn, set man free. Go can hear, circle the earth and wipe out all fears.
Swing bells, the great day may now begin. Ring out the news, the world can laugh again. This day we're free, we're equal in every way. Ring bells, declare a holiday. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Blow, sax, blow, come on, blow some more. Come on, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
Can you hear him talking to you?
Sax, blow, we all want some more. Blow, sax,
Hear him talking.
walls come tumbling down.
Hear him talking to you.
Sax,
Hear him talking. Hear him talking. Hear him talking to you.
Sax,
Hear him talking. Hear him talking. Hear him talking. Hear him talking to you.
Been waiting so long, Lord, when will it be? Been waiting so long, Lord, when it's going to see? Been waiting so long, Lord, when we never see the day that we long for. The day will be free. The day will be free. The way will be free. The day will be free.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a nice round of applause to our musicians and talent, our trombonist, Edward Gooch. On saxophone and clarinet, Detroit's own Wendell Harrison. And ladies and gentlemen, our own Louis Armstrong on trumpet, Detroit's great David Green. In our rhythm section, Ibrahim Jones on bass. Ibrahim. And our drummer, driving us through the whole show. Here he is, our own Detroit Butter Hawkins on drums. Ladies and gentlemen, our cast of performers, Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross. Tough trio to reproduce. Here they are, ladies and gentlemen. David Lambert is Carl Cafagna. Annie Ross is Mary Slavin. The great vocalese talent, John Hendricks, played by Armand Jackson. Another tough act to create, the great Carmen McRae. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is, Detroit's own Michelle McKinney. As our narrator, the lady who did the role of Iola Brubeck, who read her own show, Detroit's own honorable judge, Claudia Morcom. A young girl from the village. This is Tyler Green. Tyler Green, David's granddaughter. And our village leader, Kim Heron, and the entire village. Come on up and join us from Talgala in Africa. Here they are. And ladies and gentlemen, Satchmo himself, in the spirit of Satchmo, Louis Armstrong, here he is, Detroit's Augustus Williamson.
Ladies and gentlemen, our musical director and pianist, Mr. Bill Meyer, as Dave Brubeck.
Come on, waiting for. What are you waiting for? Can you Satchmo, Satchmo, come on for some more. Come on, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Can you Satchmo, Satchmo, we all want some more. Those Satchmo, walls come tumbling down. Those Satchmo, you can run out. Those Satchmo, take us by the hand, lead us to that promise. To that promise, to that promise.
When you hear us talking,
The real ambassador, ladies and gentlemen.
Now I leave you, now I go. Now I think you know as much as old Satchmo.
One more time, please, for the real ambassadors. This was a really extensive project, a labor of love, and a very important performance. And thank you all for your work on this. Bill, thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you so much for listening. You can say now you're some of the very few who have actually seen this performed. And wow, I mean, that was something else.
Play that. I think I've waited long enough for him to come. Some guy somewhere will want someone to love as I love him. Tired of sitting on a limb. Though I'm burned, I'll chalk it up to one more lesson learned and wonder why my heart can't be returned. 'Cause I might need it someday. I might need it someday.